Are once again urging tech giants to give them backdoor entry into people's online communications. That request comes from the intelligence alliance known as the Five Eyes. They claim encryption on services such as WhatsApp make it harder for police to catch criminals.
While encryption is vital and privacy and cybersecurity must be protected, that should not come at the expense of wholly precluding law enforcement and the tech industry itself from being able to act against the most serious illegal content and activity online.
Well, that statement came from top justice officials in the Five Eyes, countries which are Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the United Kingdom and the United States. It was also signed, by the way, by India and Japan. And it comes after Facebook announced plans to introduce end-to-end encryption on all its services to boost privacy levels. The company already encrypts messages sent on WhatsApp, but the Five Eyes Alliance says the technology could endanger public safety. They highlighted the spread of terrorist propaganda and child pornography as a particular concern, saying firms should work with intelligence services to intercept such activity. Well, let's welcome onto the programme now Peter Kirkham, a former UK police officer, and Yair Cohen, an internet law expert and author of the book, The Net is Closing, Birth of the E-Police. Welcome to you both. Peter, can we kick off with you? Do you think people have the right to keep their communications private and out of the reach of government intelligence services?
Yes, they do, but within reason. It's not an absolute right that people should have. No state, no sane state would allow citizens absolute, total privacy with no means of getting behind that available to them. There's some technical issues around this particularly, but when you think about other things, the state intervenes in people's privacy in lots of ways, issuing a search warrant to search their houses, authorising surveillance to follow them round, or whatever it might be. And we need to find the same way of, need to achieve the same thing with encrypted digital communications.
This isn't new, Yair. Similar requests were made by the Five Eyes last year, 2018 as well. The tech giants said no. But are they not under some obligation to comply somewhat? We're talking about very serious issues here, like Peter was saying, terrorism first and foremost.
I think this is now a yellow card that the governments are handing to Facebook in particular, to Twitter. There is a real power struggle here, and the power struggle is between the people represented by the government and the parliaments and the government and the tech giants. And the question is, who is in control? Who has the final word? Who has got the final say? And it seems now that the democratic governments, now together with India and Japan, so 7 of the greatest democracies in the world, are now saying to Facebook, look, this is really your final opportunity here to comply, because we are the sovereign, we are in charge here. And as Peter said, the governments are in charge, and the government should have a right to go and unencrypt and look into all sorts of things if there is a real, if they suspect that the crime has been committed. But this is really interesting, particularly with Facebook, because Facebook is like a family restaurant. So it is a family product. It is something where there's a lot of children there, and mom and dad and grandpa and grandma and Auntie Joe, and everybody's there. And suddenly, what Facebook is doing, it is introducing all those very heavily encryptions. Is this really suitable for the type of company it is? Because what seems to be the case is now, once Facebook has gathered all those members, followers, users, whichever way you want to call them, now it is taking them to a darker place. And I think this is where the governments are concerned the most.
Peter, we are talking about commercial entities here, though, aren't we, with shareholders and a bottom line. WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, it's encrypted, but surely if Facebook, for instance, were to give spy agencies access, people would just switch to another app like Telegram.
To a certain extent, yes. But there are only so many apps and communication methods available at any particular time. And there's nothing to say the governments wouldn't approach them and make similar demands of them. In fact, they undoubtedly would. As your year says, this has become a power struggle between these commercial agencies. And by the by, I think people need to be more worried about what these commercial companies are doing with their data and what they're harvesting from their accounts, rather more than what the state is harvesting. For the vast majority of people, the state really couldn't care less about them. There is no way the state is going to be looking at them. But these commercial concerns, they harvest loads and loads of stuff and do all sorts of things with it, as we've heard about in relation to elections and such like. So, maybe the distraction, or we're being distracted from what we should really be worrying about here. But I sometimes ask myself, what are people communicating on Facebook that merits this sort of level of, ultra spy sort of encryption that's being there?
Okay.
I don't think anything I've ever sent anywhere merits that.
Yeah, I know you want to get in there. I just want to put in a point as well. The UK Home Secretary Priti Patel is claiming Facebook's encryption changes will help terrorists, they'll help paedophiles. Is there any other reasons why the government might want backdoor access?
Look, governments always seek power. This is just one of those things. There's always, this power struggle between governments and in this case we have the social media companies, but it could be other corporations. The reality is that a government isn't really the truth of the matter is the government isn't really interested in what my 15-year-old son is discussing with his sister, with his girlfriend, or with his the government isn't really interested in that. And the problem again with Facebook is that these people they are not asking for this high level of encryption. Anyone who wants to use a higher level of encryption can go and use niche apps. And the question is, why does Facebook insist that they want to develop something that on the face of it is completely the opposite of what they've been doing?
Peter, that's an interesting point, isn't it? It's like putting a lid on one box and then Jack jumps out of somewhere else, because Five Eyes, the statement focuses heavily on the risk of child pornography, but surely such people who want that can find other ways to communicate.
Indeed they can. All that's the real main concern of the law enforcement agencies and the security agencies around the world is that by making this available, I mean, WhatsApp's bad enough, but making this available to Facebook or other mass communication methods, is it just means that there's now a huge degree of difficulty for law enforcement with far more minor things, not just terrorism and child pornography, where maybe the huge amounts of time, effort and money that are spent trying to get around the problems where people have got encryption is merited. It wouldn't be merited for lots of other things that would frankly become pretty impossible. Racism, for instance, investigations frequently rely on data from Facebook. They would become almost impossible. You couldn't merit that level of investment in time and effort and money for something of that scale.
Yeah, the point is often raised, if a user has nothing to hide, then why should they be afraid of government snooping?
Look, this is what democracy is all about, right? And I think the idea is that it is incumbent upon the citizen to prove that he or she is not guilty is ridiculous. So we enjoy freedoms, and we have a government that their job is to protect us. Now, the idea that just because we have nothing to protect, we need to walk naked and expose all our secrets to the entire world is unrealistic, really. The question is what Facebook has got to hide, not what the young users or family or grandma or grandpa have got to hide. What is Facebook trying to hide? Why is Facebook doing this at this particular time?
Exactly. What are they up to? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing it now?
Okay, we've got about a minute left. Do you want to give your final thoughts? Peter, just 20 seconds to you, sir.
Yeah, like I say, why are they doing this now? Well, what's brought on this necessity? I'm certainly not aware of Facebook users jumping up and down saying they want encryption. There's some campaigners and there's some sort of fundamentalists that would like it everywhere if they can get it. But I think this is just putting a degree of difficulty for law enforcement that just simply we can do without. I don't understand why they're doing it.
Yeah,
I feel slightly optimistic because what we are seeing now, and there has been a rebellion among some of Facebook's own shareholders. I feel slightly optimistic that we are moving a step closer to bringing things to normality, where governments are in control, where the governments are able to protect the citizens, and where companies such as Facebook and Google and all the other ones, they can do what they're doing best, is create technology that will help make money for the shareholders, but not at the expense of innocent people.
Well, it's a decision with a lot of ramifications. Peter Kirkham, former UK police officer, Yura Cohen, internet law expert. Thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
And that is our lot for this news hour, but I do recommend sticking around as more great programs get their start in moments. Live from Moscow, this is RT International.